Meditation says empty your mind. Metal says empty it by force. Neuroscience says both of these sentences are describing the same brain state. The playlist is different. The destination is identical. In 2015, researchers at the University of Queensland published a study in Frontiers in Human Neuroscience. Does listening to extreme music after an anger induction make people more hostile or less? The assumption built into the study design was that extreme music would amplify negative emotional states, that aggression-adjacent music would produce more aggression. The finding was the opposite. Participants who listened to extreme music after being deliberately provoked reported increased positive emotions. The music didn't suppress the emotional state, it processed it. That present moment attention absorption, the actual neurological target of mindfulness practice, can be reached through intensity as reliably as through silence. The path is different, the destination is the same. So to understand what heavy music is doing therapeutically, you need to understand what it's interrupting. The default mode network is a set of interconnected brain regions that activate when the brain is not engaged in a demanding external task. And what it does when it turns on is well documented. It generates self-referential thought, rumination, mental time travel. The default mode network left to run unsupervised tends toward dissatisfaction. This is the system that meditation is trying to quiet. Specifically, mindfulness practice works by training sustained attentional focus on a present moment anchor, typically the breath, which suppresses default mode network activation and interrupts the rumination cycle. Heavy music suppresses the default mode network through a completely different mechanism. It overwhelms it. High cognitive load environments that demand significant attentional processing, surpass default mode network activity not through trained focus, but through resource competition. There isn't enough processing capacity left over for rumination. Heavy music produces physiological arousal through multiple simultaneous channels by extreme vocal frequencies, rhythmic stimulation, bass frequencies in the chest cavity. The brain receiving high-intensity input through multiple systems simultaneously. The default mode network, the system generating the inner critic, the rumination loop, the 3 a.m. inventory of everything that has ever gone wrong, loses the resource competition. Your thoughts don't go quiet because you found peace. They go quiet because the music took the bandwidth. Same result, different mechanism. The Queensland study's finding that extreme music processed negative emotional states rather than amplifying them. Catharsis, the idea that expressing or experiencing intense emotion provides relief from that emotion rather than intensifying it. This is the mechanism musicians and listeners have been describing intuitively for decades. The music that sounds like how you feel provides relief, not despite its intensity, but because of it. The emotion has somewhere to go. It moves from internal pressure to external resonance. And in that moment, in the experience of a sound that matches the internal state precisely, the state processes. Meditation achieves this through observation. You watch the emotional state without engagement until it passes. Heavy music achieves it through identification. The emotional state finds its external form and, having been expressed, loses its grip. Two different relationships to the same internal experience, both documented to work. The flow state research connects all of it. Csikszentmihalyi's work on flow, the state of complete present moment absorption in a demanding activity, was categorized by loss of self-consciousness, distorted time perception, and what Csikszentmihalyi describes as a merging of action and awareness. That description is operationally identical to what experienced meditators describe as the target state of practice. And it is what heavy music listeners report during peak listening experiences. The attentional absorption, the loss of the internal narrative voice, the present moment immersion that makes 20 minutes feel like 5. Meditation practitioners spend years developing the attentional control required to reach that state deliberately, through the discipline of returning focus to breath when the mind wanders. Heavy music reaches the same state through a different architecture. Instead of training the mind to stay present, it creates an environment so demanding that presence is the only available option. One approach builds the capacity from the inside, the other removes the alternative from the outside. The neurological destination, suppressed default mode network, present moment absorption, processed emotional state, is documented in both. The wellness industry built a billion-dollar infrastructure around one path to a specific brain state: silence, stillness, breath. The slow, disciplined quieting of the default mode network through sustained intentional practice. It works. The research also supports a path that looks like its complete opposite: volume, distortion, rhythmic intensity that takes the bandwidth the rumination loop runs on and redirects it entirely. The brain doesn't care which path you took. It registers the destination. So if you've spent years feeling like you were doing something wrong because you couldn't sit quietly and breathe, well, you weren't doing it wrong. You were just using the wrong map for the terrain you were actually navigating. Some minds go quiet in silence. Some minds go quiet when the guitars are loud enough to make the inner critic file a noise complaint. Both are mindfulness. One just has a better soundtrack. Learn hard, live loud. I'll see you in the next one.